Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. When it comes to the world of politics and when it comes to the world of the mainstream media, it is far from a meritocracy. What it really is a clique, a group. You're either in it or you aren't. And that's what makes it so frustrating. That's what makes the world of politics and the world of government, frankly, inefficient. We just aren't sending our best. Could you imagine we had someone like Elon Musk as the president of the United States and a bunch of competent people in the House and in the Senate, and a bunch of honest, competent people covering the government and covering the world of politics within the mainstream media? No, you can't imagine that because that is a fairy tale and that is so far from reality. It's frankly the exact opposite. The whole thing seems to be a racket. Becoming a politician seems to be less about serving your country and more about serving your own bank account with the various money laundering schemes and insider trading schemes. Somehow people on a government salary being paid a little bit over $100,000 a year and their careers worth 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, sometimes over $100 million. People joining the White House only to later get multi-million dollar deals working for MSNBC and Fox News, or writing books and making millions upon millions of dollars in book deals. The whole thing's a racket. It's a business and you're funding the whole thing. And it seems as though the 2020 election, Joe Biden's candidacy, was being used as a launch pad for some of these figures. But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it definitely didn't. Mrs. Simone Sanders, who's been in the world of politics and an MSNBC and CNN contributor, at least a very prevalent one over, I'd say, probably the last 6 years. She was a campaign spokeswoman for Bernie Sanders, as well as working with the Biden administration or the Biden campaign and then transitioning with Kamala Harris. And she resigned from her position working under Kamala Harris about 5 months ago, as she was offered her own show on MSNBC. And well, pretty much as expected, it's the biggest flop next to CNN+, as Simone Sanders' new show, her debut, crashes and burns to some of the worst ratings on TV. Let me show you guys what's going on here. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, so 5 months ago, we had this report.
So new this morning, an Omaha native serving in the White House will leave the Biden administration at the end of this year. Simone Sanders spent the past year as chief spokesperson and senior advisor for Vice President Kamala Harris. Before that, she worked as a senior advisor for Joe Biden's presidential campaign. And in 2016, the Cratering grad became the youngest press secretary on a presidential campaign while working for Senator Bernie Sanders.
Simone Sanders leaves the White House to join MSNBC. That's how it started. The question is, how's it going? Ex-Biden aide Simone Sanders' MSNBC debut is a ratings flop. Simone Sanders' popularity is about as bad as the approval rating of her former boss. The ex-Biden administration official, who was most recently a top spokesperson for Vice President Kamala Harris, tanked in her debut this past weekend on MSNBC according to newly released Nielsen ratings. Simone Sanders drew just 361,000 total viewers for her 4 p.m. show titled Symone on Saturday. She also managed to attract just 29,000 viewers in the advertiser-coveted 25 to 54 demographic. What that means is nobody watched her show. 29,000 in the key demographic, meaning the only people who had the show on were grandmas and grandpas who just have MSNBC running literally all day, probably most of it in nursing homes, with little to no one actually seeking out to watch Simone Sanders. 29,000 viewers in the coveted demographic. I mean, that is abysmal. And this is exactly what I mean by the world of government, politics, and the mainstream media not being a true meritocracy. I mean, how does Simone Sanders get herself in that position in the first place? You're either part of the Washington machine or you're not. That's the way that it works. Those are the only people who get hired. Talent doesn't seem to matter. Popularity doesn't seem to matter. There's a whole lot of people with a whole lot more talent. But if you're not part of the White House Washington career launchpad, then it just doesn't work out. You just don't get the opportunity. And people like Simone Sanders do instead. And even with everything working with them, they still manage to fail. Just like CNN Plus having $300 million of advertising and production production value behind it, but instead of going out to get actual talent, they pick no talent Chris Wallace, unhinged, intersectional feminist Jameel Hill, and a bunch of mainstream nobodies, and expect the thing to take off. These people, even with millions upon millions of dollars backing them in advertising, massive studios and writers, the list goes on and on and on, like I always say folks, can't even compete with a 13-year-old kid making Minecraft videos from his mom's house. I mean, who would have seen this one coming? Simone Sanders, a deeply unpopular, frankly completely unwatchable, extremely nauseating individual, frankly. Insufferable is probably the word that I should use. We've been seeing Simone Sanders on CNN and MSNBC for years now, and every single time, it's nothing but sass and attitude and talking over people, erupting in anger, giving people dirty looks. I didn't really dig too hard, I just got a couple of examples here.
Because there is a lack of nuance in the conversation, because anytime I introduce anything that says we should look at these folks as people, you automatically jump to...
Simone, I'm not saying you should look at them as people.
Okay.
Do you denounce terrorism like that? Do you denounce Hamas?
I'm not going to engage with
Simone,
this.
it's a simple question.
Of course, Simone.
That's a question that should not even be asked because it has been answered.
Stop.
No, you stop. Because suggesting, do you denounce terrorism? Do you denounce hate? Do you still support Donald Trump? The audacity.
There's no audacity.
This is what I'm talking about. Charlottesville is an egregious symptom of what is wrong with parts of all over America. I'm not jumping to conclusions, sir. I'm being factual. And you are dismissing it. And, perhaps if you would actually speak to the heart of these things, we could get to the bottom
hold on a
of
second,
some
Simone.
And can I finish, Simone? Will you just shut up for a minute and let me finish?
Pardon me, sir. You don't get to tell me to shut up on national television.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. Under no circumstances do you get to speak to me in that matter. You should exhibit some decorum and understand that you were trying to
both of you stop for a second. Simone,
on this program,
Simone,
and under no circumstances.
Ken and Simone, hold on a second. You need a reset. You need a reset. Ken, you don't want to use language like that when you're talking to Simone. You can disagree, but you don't talk like that on this show. You know better than that, Ken.
I keep getting interrupted.
I know, but Ken, we don't tell people to shut up on this show.
And there's probably much worse examples out there that the internet would be able to get their hands on if they really looked for it. I just used the Google search bar, which of course you know how that goes. But I mean, totally unwatchable. And this is where MSNBC is going. It's nothing but grifters and miserable people, angry people who are yelling, constantly talking about privilege, pushing grievance politics, and it seems as though the consumer is just not with it. MSNBC's new talent hire new show, making Brian Stelter look immensely popular. 360,000 total viewers, most of which are probably not even viewers and not actually paying attention, and 29,000, only 29K, in the coveted 25 to 54 demographic. Epic fail. But of course it doesn't matter, it's all about ideology, it's all about being in the group. Simone Sanders is the perfect person for the job because Simone Sanders is exactly like Jen Psaki, who is also, surprised to literally no one, also leaving the White House to join MSNBC and probably get her own show. The one thing they all have in common, without question, they all push the liberal narrative no matter what. Simone Sanders during the Brett Kavanaugh situation.
You have no knowledge whether Brett Kavanaugh
did. It doesn't matter. I believe Christine Ford because when you to come forward, she has no, there's no enticements for her to come forward and to have her life destroyed, to have folks sit on panels such as these and even others and have the Senate, the leader in the Senate, basically tear down her character and assert that she's a liar. So there's no incentive for her to come forward except to tell the truth.
Without any evidence whatsoever, showing up on a panel in front of hundreds of thousands of people, pushing the hashtag #BelieveAllWomen narrative, perfectly willing to throw a good man's name away to slander Brett Kavanaugh because that's what her bosses want. Jen Psaki does the same thing. Jake Sullivan, another example, who helped push Hillary Clinton's Russia narrative to the FBI and to the media. Is it any surprise that he got a big job working for the Biden administration? Of course, it's no surprise at all. That's how you move up in this world. Not by being talented, but by being a lapdog, being a puppet for the politically powerful, for the Democrat, or even Rhino GOP establishment. Push all of our narratives and you're hired. Brian Stelter, the same thing. They're all the same. And the craziest part is that people seem to just not question any of it. MSNBC viewers, don't you find it a little bit weird that you're watching the news expecting to get accurate, neutral information and everybody who's giving feeding you said news has worked for some Democratic campaign or White House administration and is just some Democrat establishment shill that's pushing party talking points. Don't you find that a little bit weird? Don't you find that gives a little bit more merit to this idea of fake news? But in the end, folks, another positive video, another positive sign as the mainstream legacy fake news media continues to crater into the ground. CNN leading the way and MSNBC following in its footsteps. The crashing of CNN as a network, the absolute failure that was CNN+, MSNBC following, and probably Jen Psaki to join the list in the end. People might think that Jen Psaki is this incredibly popular figure on the left-wing side, but again, if it were merit-based, Jen Psaki is not an entertainer, she's not entertaining, she's just a condescending Democrat establishment hack, and I can't see 30 minutes or an hour of no character, no charisma Jen Psaki being a massive, smashing success when it comes to TV ratings. The legacy media and the political establishment is crumbling. At least that's what I tell myself, because I very badly want it to be true. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.